2-0 Atleti. Where are they? What can we expect?
Feels a bit like a free hit for Spurs, given that in March, earlier this year, us playing in the Champions League in September felt rather a long way away.
In terms of what to expect from the game, listen, Villarreal, they don't really want the ball. They're very happy to not have the ball. They're very happy to cede possession to the opponent and then try and hit you on the counter-attack.
The Georgian played on Saturday. I think that was his debut. He had a really good Euro 2024 for Georgia. Expect him to start on Tuesday night?
You'll get the tickets and the hotel organised for me, yeah?
Not a problem,
For sure.
Not a problem.
We've got a massive budget here, so that'll be easy.
Thank you for joining us. Phil Kitromilides, Spanish broadcaster, most importantly Spurs fan, which we'll come to shortly. But I want to tap into your expertise. Villarreal tomorrow night. Firstly, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show for first time on an Echo of Glory. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Before they lost to Atletico on Saturday night. I was looking at the league table and they were third. And then I looked at the results and I think it was Girona, Celta Vigo and Oviedo. I was like, okay, maybe that's why they were third. But really, they're a solid side, Villarreal. I know they lost 2-0 at Atleti. Where are they? What can we expect?
Yeah, they're a solid side. I've had sort of massive overhaul this summer. Loads of players in, loads of players out. They sold, you might have seen Jeremy Pino to Crystal Palace. They also sold Alex Baena to Atletico Madrid. They were two of their biggest ever transfers in their history. So they brought a lot of money in, but they spent it. And they're a really well-run club, so they do have money to spend. Unlike a lot of clubs in Spain, who don't have too much money to spend, Villarreal do, and they bought it to try and strengthen the squad, which I think they've done pretty well in terms of bringing players in. So let's see. In terms of what to expect from the game, listen, Villarreal, they don't really want the ball. They're very happy to not have the ball. They're very happy to cede possession to the opponent and then try and hit you on the counter-attack. I'll give you an example. I remember last season at the end of the season in La Liga, they were at home, Villarreal, to Leganés. Leganés, not a good team. They got relegated. Villarreal had, I think, 30% possession in this game, and they won 3-0. Like, even at home to a relegation-threatened side, they were not taking the initiative. That's fine. You have the ball. That's fine. We're going to sit back and we're going to hit you on the counter. And that's what they did. And that's what I fully expect them to try and do tomorrow against Spurs. They tried to do it against Atletico Madrid and it didn't work very well on Saturday. But they still had some really good chances. And I think they had actually a slightly higher expected goals than Atletico Madrid. So even though they didn't have much possession, even though Atleti controlled the game, they still managed to create at least two really, really clear-cut openings. So they're a side that can hurt you without really needing the ball too much.
I noticed excuse my pronunciation, Mikautadze, the Georgian, played on Saturday. I think that was his debut. He had a really good Euro 2024 for Georgia. Expect him to start on Tuesday night?
I think so. I mean, definitely expected him to start against Atletico Madrid, but now they do have options up front. Ayose Perez, who they signed from Real Betis last summer.
Newcastle,
Yeah. He was on the bench against Atletico Madrid, so he's got an opportunity. I mean, Mikautadze and Perez, I've never played in the Champions League before. Neither is Nicola Pepe. Neither have over half of the players in the squad for Villarreal. So they have signed decent players, but maybe not players that have been involved in the Champions League previously. So we'll see how they get on. But yeah, Mikautadze is their biggest ever transfer. They spent 30 million euros on him, which is big money for Spain and big money for Villarreal. So yeah, we'll see whether or not he starts. I've got a feeling he might though. Yeah.
You mentioned Pepe. Obviously, he hasn't played in the Champions League before because he was up the road when they weren't in it. But he's been in good form. He scored a couple of goals, but actually closer to home. Juan Foyth, he was here for a few years. Tell us how he's getting on.
Juan Foyth just turned into like a really, really good player, like an amazingly good player. I definitely didn't see this when he was at Spurs. He played a lot of the time at right back for Villarreal, and now that he's being used as a centre back, and he may well start at centre back tomorrow. And it's something, yeah. I mean, I did not see this coming. For him to be sort of evolving into a Champions League elite defender when he was at Spurs seemed, prior did a decent enough job, useful utility player, but nothing particularly special. But now he's really evolved into a really important player for Villarreal. Plays every game if he's fit. So I was surprised and quite pleased to see him develop like this.
Phil, from an outsider looking in, Villarreal over sort of the last 20 years, smaller budget, smaller stadium compared to some of the bigger clubs in Spain, but they're always around that sort of fifth, sixth Champions League, challenger for the Champions League, won the Europa League, they've reached the latter stages of the Champions League. How do they, keep punching above their weight?
I mean, yeah, I'll mention the number that's always mentioned when you talk about Villarreal, 50,000. That's the population of the town, 50,000. It's a tiny little place, and it's a very well run club. Obviously, it helps that they've got a rich owner in Fernando Roch, who owns the biggest chain of supermarkets in Spain, and he has put a lot of money into the club. But like I said, it's been well run. They haven't outspent themselves. They've been well within budget. They've sold very well as well, which has helped. So they're just a really well run club. They won't spend too much, and it's a miracle, and now we just sort of become used to it now. Oh yeah, they're in the Champions League, yeah, but they're from a tiny little town. There's no real reason for them to be amongst the elite, but there they are. Of course, last time they played in the Champions League was in the semi-final against Liverpool in 2022 when they gave them a really good game in Villarreal as well. So yeah, they continue to punch way above their weight. They really shouldn't be here, but here they are. And again, it's a bit like I heard you guys speaking just before I came on, talking about, well, I'm not really that excited because you're not going to win the Champions League. And, let's be honest, Spurs probably aren't going to win the Champions League. But you never know. But Villarreal probably aren't going to win the Champions League either. But they got to the semi-final 3 years ago. They got to the semi-final, had absolutely no business. So when things click, magic happens in the Champions League, and it always seems to be one year the team goes on a ridiculous run to the semi-finals. There's an outsider that gets to the semi-finals. So, why can't that be Spurs again this year, or why can't that be Villarreal? I'm not saying go and win it, but go deep in it. It would be great to see.
I was going to say, Phil, there is an element of it feels a bit like a free hit for Spurs, given that in March earlier this year, us playing in the Champions League in September felt rather a long way away. Mm-hmm. What's the general vibe about Villarreal in their Champions League situation? Is it sort of great to be in it, let's see what happens, have some fun with it, or are they going to use it as a platform to build on and deprioritize La Liga for the Champions League games, which teams have to do in some capacity to compete properly?
Yeah, this is why I think they've gone out and spent a bit of money and reinforced the squad quite a lot, because they want to go as deep as they can in the competition, and you need to have players in every position. One of the great things I think about playing for Villarreal, being the manager of Villarreal, it's not that much pressure on you. It's not like being at Real Madrid or Barcelona or even at Atletico Madrid or even at somewhere like Sevilla or Betis or in Bilbao, or where there's like a really strong local press and massive fan base. There isn't a huge fan base. So there isn't huge expectations. So there isn't a massive amount of pressure on Villarreal. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a free hit for them as well. They hadn't been in the Champions League for 3 years, so they'll want to do well on their return. I think they've got a tricky draw though. I mean, they've got to play Man City, away to Spurs, which is obviously the hardest of the lot. They've got to go to Dortmund. They've got Leverkusen. I think they've got Juventus as well. So it's a really difficult draw for Villarreal, and so they will be viewing. I don't know if they'll be viewed as the game against Spurs as one of the more winnable fixtures, but certainly, if of those games that I've just reeled off, maybe they will feel like this is one that they can try and get something out of.
Man City, Dortmund en route to the Champions League final. No biggie.
Easy.
Villarreal have played 14 matches against the English opposition. They've never won one. I don't think they're going to win tomorrow, hopefully. We've asked a few people on here, we asked a German guy last week how the Premier League is viewed abroad. The Liga is wonderful. It's probably the closest in quality to the Premier League. Premier League probably the biggest league in the world, and La Liga probably second. But how are Spurs viewed, and how's the Premier League viewed over there at the moment?
So the Premier League is just viewed as this sort of golden money bags land where they just come and just swoop for all the best players here. And when you've got uh, like bottom team in the Premier League makes more money than the team that finishes third and fourth in La Liga, in terms of TV. So it's difficult to compete financially, and it's just seen as like that's where the money is basically. So I think a lot of people, and also the speed of the Premier League. Like when you watch the Premier League and when you watch La Liga, I will defend La Liga and say that, the technical level and the technical ability that you see week in, week out, teams can play and they can pass. And there are really good teams in La Liga. It's not just Real Madrid and Barcelona, but the speed. If you go from watching a La Liga game to go to watching a Premier League game, which I do often, most weekends, it's like you're watching a game on fast forward because the speed with which the Premier League is played at, the pace is a little bit different to Spain. In terms of how Spurs are viewed, I mean, I'd like to come on and tell you that, we've got this magnificent reputation here in Spain, but we don't, unfortunately. Like they view here in Spain, they view like Liverpool and Manchester United have got this like mythical aura around them, particularly Liverpool because of what they've done in Europe as well. Like they've got like big respect for them. They're viewed as like this big traditional European side. Spurs, yeah, people know who they are, but it's not like the people are
We
sort
won a
of big
European
fans
Cup in their country, didn't we?
We did, and we also played a Champions League
Yeah.
final not long ago as
Yeah.
well. So, like I said, people definitely know who we are, but we're not amongst the elite quite yet.
And obviously, you're saying you're a broadcaster, but a Spurs fan too. How are you feeling about Spurs at the moment?
Yeah, feeling all right. I mean, it was a bit of a weird one at the end of last season, obviously, with the whole situation with Ange. I know you, Johnny, pretty pleased to see him gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a little bit, no. I was a little bit sort of before the final, he's got to go, and then after the final, I let emotions get the better of me. Like, no, he's got to stay. Give it one more season. Look at this. Look at the parade. I went to the parade. Flew back for it. It was just, it's all magical. Just give him another season. But yeah, I think the sort of cold ruthlessness of getting rid of him and bringing in Thomas Frank at the moment seems like quite a good move. I just didn't like the lack of a plan B last season. It was just so frustrating, so frustrating. Although we did see it a little bit in the Europa League and some of the away games, they got the job done, playing in a slightly different way. But overall, it just felt a little bit one-dimensional. So yeah, I think the summer signings quite impressive. Actually, I identified positions that needed filling, went out and got like high quality players for those positions. So yeah, feeling pretty positive. I took my son to his first Spurs game last season I was going to say the lane at the lane, and it was a frustrating 1-1 draw against Fulham. And I said, this is the perfect sort of way to begin life as a Spurs fan. So
that was one of the better results last season.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I think it can't get any worse domestically. Literally can't get any worse domestically than it was last season, and we've started well. So let's see.
And finally, back to tomorrow. I said Villarreal never beaten an English side. We've got a really poor record against Spanish sides. I think one win in our last 13, which would have been Real Madrid at Wembley. We've lost to Barca, Real Madrid, Getafe, and others historically. How do you see it going tomorrow night?
I mean, Spanish teams have got a very good record against English teams in general. So if I sit on the fence and say it might be like a 2-2 draw, I could see something like that playing out. Obviously, I'd love Spurs to start winning, but Villarreal are a tough team, very tough team to break down. And yeah, I'm a little bit scared of them on the break. I shouldn't be, because obviously Mickey van der Ven, and I mean, haven't loved Spurs player more than for a long time. It's been a long time since Ledley, since I loved the player as much as him. So his speed could be important tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-2.
Okay, Phil, thank you so much for joining us, for making your debut, and we will definitely speak to you probably live from Budapest when we play Real Madrid in the Champions League final.
Nice one. I'm sure you'll get the tickets and the hotel organised for me. Yeah,
not a problem.
For sure.
Not a problem.
We've got a massive budget here, so that'll be easy.
Nice one, guys.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Phil.
Cheers. No worries. Bye bye.